Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you on this July 15th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing the bombshell Bachelor in Paradise episode. Week 2 has hit the beach, and we had a really shocking turn of events. To be quite honest, I found it to be compelling TV. We'll talk about that, and we'll lead off with a Blake Lively story as we prepare for her deposition this week. And then we'll talk more Epstein. It's the biggest pop culture and political story that's working its way not just through U.S. politics, but really internationally. And we've got massive influencers that are, I guess, being told to stop talking about Epstein. And we've also got, they voted. They did a vote last night to see if they should release the files. And the Republicans said no, and again, their constituents will not be happy. And then we'll talk a little bit about Anthony Cuomo deciding to run as an independent in the New York City mayoral race. Lots to get into, all this and more. It starts right now on The Rush. So before we get into A Bachelor in Paradise, I wanted to start with Blake Lively. A lot of people were upset yesterday when they found out that the judge ruled on the protective order that Blake Lively wanted. She basically wanted to get the deposition moved from Justin Baldoni's law firm to her law firm, her Manette or whatever her lawyers are called, and it seemed like a big gut punch to a lot of people. Now, I went on Colonel Kurtz's live stream last night. You guys can go check that out. She had a nice 6-hour live stream. I broke it open for the first 30 minutes or so. And my opinion was that it's not a huge deal. It's not a win for Justin. But at the same time, they'll be able to adapt to the questions. I don't think home field advantage will be that big of a deal. Now, other folks have said, I've read some of the comments, no, Blake Lively hired that CIA PR guy. They're going to scan Justin Baldoni's computers or Brian Friedman's computers. And it's like, look, I don't know. I mean, this sounds like a lot. It sounds like, I love the theories, but it's like, Brian Friedman's going to have the questions he wants to ask her. Her lawyers will be there to object, and they'll get it all on tape, and we're going to watch it one day, or we'll not. Well, depending on if this thing goes to trial. Or Blake Lively will, maybe be close to settling this thing, and it'll settle before the deposition even happens. I don't think that's the case. Either way, here is not actually golden. She's one of the lawyers I think we most enjoy. She's doing a fantastic job discussing the emotion that comes with every single decision in these pre-trial hearings, where you've got Justin wins this and then he loses this and kind of goes back and forth. So she's here to say she doesn't believe there's any shadiness going on by the judge.
I am one of those people, and I sense a lot of you are too. I am one of those people with a really high justice response. Like, I want things to be fair and I want things to be right, and I get very frustrated when they're not. And I think that's part of the reason that I do the work that I do. But also, by doing the work that I do, I have learned that you have to pace yourself, because in a dispute that goes on for any amount of time, it is inevitable that there are going to be things that happen that you don't think should happen. And there are going to be issues where you lose, where you thought you should have won. And it's like a totally natural human response. So I wouldn't ever want anybody to get the impression that I'm telling them don't feel shitty about it. I just don't think the judge is sitting in his office twisting his mustache trying to figure out how he can help Blake Lively. I think he's doing his job, and he's like, it'll be harder to deal with if I say no, because what if she files a motion for reconsideration and we have a hearing tomorrow, and then her people will be in there yelling at me about protecting sexual harassment victims or whatever. Just give it to her.
And by the way, I know people don't like this answer, but I have to be honest with my audience. I tend to agree with not actually golden. If you wanted to find a conspiracy, you could find a conspiracy in anything. The judge's brother is somehow connected to, there's always going to be something going on. But we'll see how this all plays out. The judge has cited plenty with Blake Lively's side. That is for sure. But I don't think this is a be-all, end-all. But we'll be here to cover this ongoing court case and everything that comes up. It could be a pretty big week. All right, we're going to dive into Bachelor in Paradise. We have a lot to talk about here. So it's week 2, Bachelor in Paradise. In past seasons, I would just take notes and read them back. No edits, no jump cuts, just me, you, and we get into it. But there's so many other things going on. So I'm not going to give my thoughts on all of the minutia of everything going down. But what I did find interesting on episode 2 of this new sort of rebranding of Bachelor in Paradise is the sort of self-sabotage that happened between Lexi and Justin. So Lexi's dating Justin right there. Justin wanted her. He had nothing but eyes for her. And then I guess she was kind of like second guessing his intentions because he wasn't talking to other women and he was only focusing on her. And then Justin's like, what are you talking about? It's because I like you. Like, I'm into you. So you can just, you kind of see why all these people are still single. They can't get out of their own way. Now, Justin had previously been dating Susie. Full disclosure, I love these people. Like, Susie's so fantastic. She was my first guest ever on Driving with Dave. I've also had Justin on, and heck, I've also had Lexi on the show. Justin and Susie came to my gender reveal party, not mine, my son's, which we had in Los Angeles before we moved. They're good people. So they dated only a few months before this show, aired. So then Susie comes down to the beach, and they have this really just like tired, depleted, heartfelt conversation where Justin's like, how you doing? And Susie's like, I'm good. And he's like, I didn't sound like you're good. And she's like, I'm going to cry. It's like, how real was that, And for Justin and Susie to be exes, but also still have such a strong appreciation for each other, I found really inspiring. And I'm sure I asked the question that a lot of people ask, which is, how the heck are they not still together? But I said the same thing when it came down to Susie and Clayton. I thought they were good for each other. So what do we know, right? But Justin and Susie did start as friends, and then they developed into more than that. They never really hard launched their relationship. They did their best to keep it out of the public eye, and yet still it didn't survive the test of time after a year. And which is really sad, because as we're watching that play out, I'm like, I know how the show goes, like to an extent. I know some spoilers, I won't share them here, but not all of them. And I'm watching this going, are they going to get back together? Did I read this wrong? And as of right now, we watched episode 2 and they're broken up, but they're still kind of like friendly. He's trying to give Lexi the reassurance she needs, but she's also kind of like being weird. Like they had a good chemistry when they started. I don't know if Lexi's just not that into him or what, but I just didn't feel like it was working out. So we'll go into more of that in a second, but Dale Moss and Brian both were tempted by the new ladies that came in, the Jersey girls that came in on the Wave Runners. Didn't fall much for that temptation, although Brian did. He ditched Zoe, and Zoe, rightfully said she was anxiously attached style, and she wasn't get the reassurance from Brian, but Zoe was right. I mean, Brian was like, didn't even say good morning to her. It's like, what are you talking about? This guy was, he was kind of weird. You get to see how men are, especially on the show, when they've got the power. So episode 1, the women have the roses and the guys were on their best behavior. Episode 2, the guys are like, I'm going to test the waters out. We'll see, kicking the can on the thing. And you just get to see these guys have a little too much power. And then Brandon, he's going after Alex, and she's not into it. She's getting the ick from him. But again, she's still going to accept his rose. Jeremy's got a good thing with Bailey. Then Susie shows up and is into Jeremy, and they start hooking up, and they're doing okay. But this is what's tough with the show, is that you have to give someone a rose. So Jeremy goes, oh, wait, I got a good thing going with Susie, but I've already got a great thing going with Bailey, so I'm going to keep it going with Bailey. Dale, of course, gives the rose to Kat after contemplating, trying new things with a new lady. Spencer's got his long-term fling going. He's pretty much set. That storyline's over as far as we are concerned. But what's really interesting, and again, if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. But what's really interesting here, and if you watched this last night, of course, Justin, he was essentially, I was prepared for him to give his rose to Lexi. It seemed like that's what was going to go down. And Justin offered his rose to Susie. And Susie's response is, no, what are you doing? Then Lexi's there, jaw agape. She's like, what's going on? And then after Susie says no to Justin, I'm like, is Justin going to try to pawn this rose off to Lexi? So it appears as though Justin wanted to give Susie the rose so that she could have a reason to stay in because it was her first night. And I'm here to tell you guys this. The fact that the show doesn't have any assurances for star talent like Susie to stick around is a shame on the show. They need to have, like, Jesse Palmer has to have some, like, save a cast member button where they can pull it on all stars like Susie. She deserves to not be on the beach. She deserves to be the Bachelorette. Are you kidding me? She's fantastic. And I'm not here just to pimp for Susie. I think Justin is as well. I really do think they're really great people who deserve a lot more airtime. I mean, the conversation that Justin and Susie were having, even the moments where they weren't even talking, that to me has more energy and emotion than most of what we're going to get from Bachelor in Paradise. It's what they said. It's what they didn't say. There was just a lot there. So I don't know how it ends. There's another episode tonight. Of course, it's only episode 2. So we'll have to see where they go from there. But I thought it was riveting. I don't know what you guys think. Leave a comment. But I thought it was fascinating. And I think it'll be a damn shame if Susie does go home that quick. The show needs to do a better job of having more options for the people that arrive. Jill arrived. There was no one for her to date. And so she takes Jonathan, and it's like a friend with benefits thing. By the way, today I might have messed his name up earlier. Jonathan, and then Jonathan and Jill end up kissing, but he ends up choosing Alex. Alex isn't even into him, so you just see a lot of bad choices being made. Hey, but that's the name of the game. That's paradise. All right. Speaking of bad choices being made, we're gonna come back with the Epstein conversation. I don't know if you're into this or not, but it's gigantic. This is JFK on steroids. This is quite possibly a massive, blackmail pedophile ring going on. If it's real, it's sick, it's sad, it needs to be exposed. And if it's fake, then why the hell did they use this to campaign on and make all these false promises and stoke all of the divisiveness in our country? Either way, there are plenty of conservative podcasters that are not accepting the narrative, and I'm here for it. I'm here for critical thinking. I'm here for us truly, truly trying to drain the swamp. That conversation comes next.